We are truly honored to have a truly distinguished panel of educators here. I've probably been attending, I can't remember how many GEOINT symposiums been. We have never had, in all my time, such a distinguished panel of educators to talk about issues of geospatial intelligence and working with education. So this is really a true honor to have the panel we have. So this panel is about capitalizing academic knowledge. The panel will discuss how schools can engage with GEOINT and showcase it in their academic institutions. A very second important thread is to explore how academic institutions connect with learners and researchers, with the end user. So let me go through very briefly through our panel of experts. First, we have Roberta Cordano. We also have Ken Olive, Kristen Sobolink, and Freddie Wills. What I'm going to do is I am going to have them go through, answer a few questions as they introduce themselves, and then we're going to open to questions in the audience. There are cards we're going to use for questions. If you would please get a card and you write it down, you'll pass it up, and I'll read the question. So without any further ado, what I'd like each of our panelists to do is to describe who they are, what institution they're from, and their role at the institution, and how the institution became engaged with the geospatial intelligence community. So we're going to start with Dr. Cordano, please.
Thank you so much for that nice introduction. On behalf of all of us, I wanted to take a moment and thank you, Todd, for leading our panel today. The organization and the conversations have been very rich and fun as we prepare, so I just wanted to begin today by saying thank you to you as well. And I am Bobby Roberta Cordano. People call me Bobby. I am the first deaf female president of Gallaudet University. It's a university that has been 157 years in existence. We were chartered by Congress and for one primary purpose, and that is to provide educational opportunities and pathways for deaf, hard of hearing, and deafblind people, and people who learn primarily through American Sign Language. And to add to that, I wanted to share how we have been involved in GEOINT and just a little bit about our involvement in the intelligence community. The relationship between NGA and Gallaudet, I guess it's got a splash of energy, you might say, when I became president of Gallaudet University. There are many deaf and hard of hearing employees who are part of the intelligence community, and they invited me to speak to the intelligence community employees from many different sectors of the federal government. At that time, our relationship with Director Sharp has changed dramatically. It was first looking to deaf and hard of hearing employees and pathways to them and career development, but our strategic partnership has grown deeply, and I'm very excited for that and excited for my opportunity to be part of this conversation today. So thank you.
Thank you. Ken?
Hi, thanks Todd for having me, and great to see all of you. So my name is Ken Olive. I'm the Vice President for Research and Partnerships at St. Louis University. St. Louis University is the oldest university west of the Mississippi River, oldest institution in the city of St. Louis. I joined SLU 5 years ago from the University of Chicago, where I had been for about 12 years, and I was hired in order to elevate SLU into a premier research university. When I was being recruited for the job, it was April of 2016, I was starting to follow the news in St. Louis, and I saw this curious clip in the newspaper that said, the NGA is going to invest $1.7 billion in a new campus. And I had no idea what an NGA was, but I thought, oh, that's really interesting. And so when I got into the role, SLU had an existing credo with the NGA through our engineering school, and I went to my first GEOINT conference about 4 years ago and experienced all of this. I naively sent an email to then director Robert Cardillo and said, "Hey, I'm from SLU. Would you have some time to talk with me?" And to my great surprise, he actually responded and took a meeting with me. And he said, when I made the decision to locate the new campus in St. Louis, I had in mind that building these kinds of collaborations with the academic community was essential to the success of the future of the agency. So at SLU, we hired Robert Cardillo as a distinguished fellow to advise us on building a geospatial institute and then the broader regional agenda that we've all been working on together.
Kristen, would you please?
Yeah, thank you. I'm Kristen Soblik. I'm the Chancellor at the University of Missouri St. Louis. And we're on the other end. We are a younger institution here in the St. Louis ecosystem. We're going to be celebrating our 58th year here. We are the premier public urban research university here in the region. 75% of our over 110,000 graduates live and work here in St. Louis. So what's good for St. Louis, we want to help drive and make better. So as the NGA is here wanting to make a huge impact across our nation, but also St. Louis, we are going to be about the NGA and making sure that we provide the workforce, the diverse workforce that's needed to help drive that relationship, help drive St. Louis, and ultimately our nation. So that's why we are here. We have the Geospatial Collaborative that's located in T-Rex, and we have very flexible degree programs to make sure that we are aligning very quickly into that geospatial space. We just signed an EPA, an educational plan with the NGA yesterday, and so we're excited as we move forward to implement and take a leadership role in that space.
Thank you. And last, but certainly not least, Freddie, please.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Freddie Wills, and I serve as the Vice President for STEM Initiatives and Research Partnerships at Harris-Stowe State University. Well, we are the only public university here in the city of St. Louis and also the only HBCU in the city of St. Louis. And in our role, we must create new opportunities and pathways for our students. And we also must create new skill sets for our students. So when the NGA decided to locate here in St. Louis, that was our opportunity to do just that. And we have created an educational partnership agreement with the NGA as well. And through that agreement, we're looking to build our curriculum, expand our academic enterprise with that. And we also want to make sure that our students have the opportunity to get jobs of the future that's coming here to St. Louis. So it's very important to us that we continue to do our effort to make sure that we're a part of this conversation for years to come.
Thank you. So I have a few questions that were sort of derived as we did a pre-session. So I'm going to ask those to our panelists, but we want to open up after that to your questions. So there are cards. If you would please, you have a question, please jot them down on a card, and they'll be passed up, and then I'll ask the question to the panelists. So let's move to Bobby first. And incidentally, my wife's name is Bobby, so it's very easy to remember. But she spells it differently. She spells it with 2 E's. Never explained why that she did that. So the first question is, academia is making critical decisions involving resource allocations when engaging with government and or industry partners. Why is your institution interested in engaging in the GEOINT community? And as a follow-on to that then, what are the benefits to government and industry for this?
So I can share with you a bit of a story here that in some ways is unique to Gallaudet, and yet at the same time, I think everyone here on the panel could probably share their own version of exactly why we're engaged with the NGA as we are. As president of Gallaudet Universities, one of my primary responsibilities is to deliver and really showcase the value of the deaf, hard of hearing, and deafblind communities as members of our world. and GEOINT community as well, and how we can add value to that community. And by the word value, I'd like to give you, I think the beauty of ASL is that it's a bit different in English in that the sign for value holds multiple meanings. The idea behind value is human value. It's the cherished value that the human can provide to the workplace and to other areas. There's intangible values that are available as well. Intangible valuables like the ability to see and experience a person, and as a deaf person, their way of being. And so it's that deaf way of being that adds value to the community. And there are also tangible values that we as deaf people contribute. Financial values, for example. In our 157 years of existence, since Gallaudet was founded that many years ago, we have been able to generate and create a sign language economy that's now valued between $2 to $3 billion just in this country alone. And I'll bet there's not a single person here in this room that understands the value that is given to you by the billion-dollar economy that we contribute to the overall economy. And generally, people don't know anything about our economy, our culture, and what we have to contribute. There are 200 to 300 other sign languages around the world, and yet only 100 to 125 sign languages have been documented and recognized as official languages. So as we lead with the documentation of American Sign Language, as we began in 1960, that was the first time sign language was ever documented as a language. And Gallaudet University was the pioneer in that area. And with this, we see there are gaps in the intelligence community of understanding our people, our community, people who are deaf, not only here in the nation, but around the world. We know there's a famous story of someone from Texas, Sam Houston, who was a very successful deaf leader. And because of this, he was a spy. He was actually known as Deaf Smith, a spy in the local area. He was a signer and was able to communicate and make inroads because he was deaf into the intelligence community. So our language has been recognized in many places. The contributions we make in the field of baseball, if you think about the baseball signals, and how we're able to understand plays from the umpire, that comes really from the beginnings of the deaf community. All of that started at Gallaudet, as did the football huddle. Our job as a university now is to be able to bring to the broader community examples of the human value that our students, our communities can provide to the broader community on a daily basis. And I see that as a critical part of my job and our job together here. I wanted to share with you a great example of what it is that we can provide and how we view our work, our EPA with NGA, and how we can work to contribute in this way. We see great opportunity in terms of how we can improve human interface with technology and AI technologies through things like gesturing and sign language. So how can our experiences improve the quality of human interface? You know, we have some significant ideas and projects that we are looking to build in this space as we work alongside of you. I also can share one very important statistics with you, and that is the #1 reason why people leave the military is because of hearing loss. The largest issue in this industry is related to hearing loss. So whenever you come to visit Gallaudet, you will find that hearing loss is not at all a barrier to your success. I'm president of the university. We have healthy families and communities and a healthy learning environment. So what can we do at Gallaudet to better support the experience and the adaptation that people go through as they experience hearing loss throughout the lifespan? You know, and it's kind of funny if you think about it. Industry and healthcare are so busy working to cure, would think they can cure deafness and to cure deaf children. But the irony of this is that one a surefire way that the human experience can be adapted is if all of you could become, you know, hard of hearing or deaf by the time you're probably, in your 70s or 80s. That's a very strong likelihood. Our deaf and hard of hearing children have a lot to teach us about aging and hearing loss throughout aging process and how to adapt in the world when you have this condition. You know, the second thing is, if you think about the way the world is today as we compare it now to 50 years ago, when most of the world was based on sound and auditory input, now in the 21st century, it's all very visually based. And you know, we are visual people as deaf people. Our value for you is that we are visual people and contribute to a lot of learning in that area. That's what we call deaf gain. And the last thing to add here, when I talk about the sign language economy earlier being worth $2 to $3 billion, there is value here to what you do every single day, value that you may not realize that really pertains to your work. And our job is to make connections between the value that we have to bring in the economies that we create in intelligence and communication and sharing of information and learning. So all of the categories that I just gave you relate to each one of us and the categories that we deal with on a daily basis and how we as deaf people can add value to the GEOINT community.
Thank you. Kristen, next question's for you. How does your university connect with researchers, faculty, and learners with the end user of geospatial intelligence? And then the follow-up question on that is, how did you have to adjust internally to make that happen?
Yeah, thank you for that question. And I think it's a twofold but very intertwined. And the main thing is to make sure that the industries are our partners. Businesses in the local area and the NGA are our partners from the beginning. So as we are developing the diverse pathways, the curricular pathways for our students, for the future workforce that the NGA needs or other businesses, that they are our partners telling us what they need to have those alumni, those students, those workers be successful in that space. So it's a way for higher education to kind of rethink how we used to think. We need to be aligning. We need to have industries and businesses as our partner from the get-go. One example that I want to provide is that the University of Missouri St. Louis received an EDA grant so that we could bring our collective research not just at UMSL, but also across the University of Missouri system and the Southern Illinois University system to bear and be accessible for our industry partners in all of Missouri, but all of Southern Illinois as well. So this EDA grant aligns the research, illustrates the research and the technology, the researchers, and the different equipment that we have in thousands of labs across Missouri and Illinois. So that's called research enabled. And that's a huge open pathway to really connect industry partners, contractors to the wonderful research that's happening every day in all of our labs and out in the community. So that's a great way to do that. And getting back, I think, to your last part of the question, Todd, was how does this align with the NGA? And it is no different with the NGA than with any of our other industry partners. We have been working with the NGA from the beginning to make sure that our technical and geospatial curricular pathways align with what they need. So we're not developing something that's out here irrespective of what they need. So there are partners in that geospatial space. We particularly interface well with our geospatial collaborative, and we include them from the very beginning. And that's no different than having any kind of community partner. Our industry, the NGA, corporations, our region are our partners, and so that inclusion from the beginning is absolutely essential.
Thank you.
May I add a comment to what was just shared, to take
Please.
a moment here? So thank you. You know, Kristen, one of the things that we've all talked about is just the recognition that the academic pace and the pace of government and the pace of industry, those paces, including the private sector, are not always the same. So they vary greatly. And one of the things that we have to really start to consider more carefully, and especially with private sector and industry, are the expectations and how we manage talent within those expectations. We see a lot of talent drain from universities and colleges to allow private industry to be able to keep their workforce working at the speed they want to. But what we recognize what's lost in teaching and development of the next generation of people, the next generation of workforce contributors that you need. So I think all of our universities are very similar, especially with Harris Stowe and Gallaudet, in that, we have the ability to have individuals like African Americans who can teach computing science, and maybe there's only one person who fits that particular area of content with a degree, and they're wanted by the private sector, and therefore they get recruited to other places, and that happens to deaf people as well. But then who is left to train the next generation of individuals? We want to have more collaborative discussions, deepen those conversations to really understand how we can meet the needs of our organizations and also the future talent that we all want and need. It's a negotiation as to how to do that in more creative ways going forward. And I think from your comments, I'm sure all of us probably feel very similar. Maybe others can add as well.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right, President Cordano. And you talk about the pace of higher education and making sure that we're aligning more with our industry partners, but coming to meet in the middle so that we have a better understanding. And that's true for all of higher education. I think according to our industry partners, they want us to move much more quickly, and we have to adapt in order for us to actually be doing our job as educators for the 21st century and beyond, and to help move the NGA forward, but also the nation forward. You're absolutely correct.
Thank you. Ken, I'd like to turn to you for the question. Sort of reversing the question that I asked Kristen. Get the microphone on here. I'd like to reverse that. So what can government and industry do within the realm of change in order to help you work with them?
I'm going to build off of some of the themes that my colleagues have raised. I think industry and government needs to have higher expectations for universities, honestly. I remind myself that we are 1,000-year-old institutions. We were birthed in medieval Europe, organized in terms of guilds, and we haven't changed a whole lot in the past 1,000 years. And we're incredibly conservative institutions. And so I think that the moment that we're in right now requires us to do things differently. We have incredible assets at universities. I mean, we have some of the world's smartest people. We train basically the talent that leads all of our institutions. We come up with the most fundamental discoveries that drive our economy. And yet, we're slow, we're creaky, we're bureaucratic, we're siloed, and so on. So I think it's actually a very good thing for industry to ask us to change and to do more, and to have high expectations for us. On the other hand, though, I would say we need to take ourselves seriously as institutions, and we have to have high expectations for our industry partners as well. Meaning also, we need to expect that they respect what we do and what we can do, that we deliver what we say we're going to do, that we do very high quality work, and that we're also well compensated for doing it as well. So I think that there's value on both sides with raising each other's expectations.
Thank you.
Yeah, Todd, if I could add on to that, I wanted to reiterate and add to what Ken had to say. And it's not just having industry, aligning with industry expectations and having them expect more from us, but ultimately it's all about our students and making sure that we are aligning with them and what their needs are. So they're the ones that actually drive us even more so than a lot of our industry partners to be the best institution that we can be. And as a younger institution here in this space, I feel that we're moving quite rapidly. We're not as entrenched in thousands of years of backstory, but we need to move quickly to align with industry, but ultimately our students drive me and us every single day.
And to add to that, I just wanted to mention that at Gallaudet, I'm not even sure that industry is even aware of the talent and creativity that we have to offer and just the original knowledge that exists within our community. So, I often don't use the word disability and ability. We talk about deaf people in general, and I think most of you would identify us as being people with disabilities or medical conditions. But what's interesting is I really prefer the term value instead, looking to see what value people bring every single day. And we're an example of a university that still is waiting for people to discover the value that we have to add, just like the NGA has done a great job of doing, really focusing and looking at what we have to offer and recognizing what's there. And not only that, but negotiating that space within communities of students that have been marginalized for so many years from this field. And I have to say, this is not just true for deaf people. I think it's true for many marginalized communities. It requires some negotiation. And I actually like the idea of the high expectations we have for one another. And I also, at the same time, would like to ask for a different kind of patience in negotiating that space when we come together. I think when we have that patience and negotiation and we begin to find one another's value add that we bring to that relationship, amazing, brilliant things can happen, and creativity and problems can be solved through that relationship. What I ask all of us is to rethink the way we engage in conversations with one another and to negotiate that space so that creativity can flourish, because that's what we're known for doing in this country. The beauty of this country is that we have the most highly educated deaf and hard of hearing population anywhere else in the world. And that's because of democracy, and that's because this country believes in education and the value of education. I'm always very cautious when it comes to think how easy it is to blame and criticize educators. But if you think about it, is the one hallmark of democracy that is the most important one, and that's the strength that we bring as educational institutions to uphold the strength of our democracy in this country.
Freddie, we want to give you time here too. I'd like to return to the question a little bit that ties in what Kristen talked about. There is a problem within the academic institutions of training and retaining PhDs, especially in areas of high demand. They get higher salaries in industry. It's a challenge both then for the academic institutions and also for industry. Do you have any insights and solutions how we can solve that problem?
Yes. Well, my colleagues have shared a lot, and so I'm going to intertwine and weave some of my thoughts into what they've shared here today. And one thing Ken mentions that we are 1,000-year-old institutions, and we haven't changed our ways for a long time. But as academia, colleges and universities exist to transfer knowledge. And one of the unique things about that process of transferring knowledge is that it's shareable. So I believe that we have to create new models of how we partner together. And creating those new models, I'm looking at opportunities where we can share our services. How can we create opportunities with industry where industries can loan universities and colleges their experts to come in and partner with us as our faculty members. In most departments, you're only talking about 2 or 3 or so faculty members. So industry that has hundreds of employees, they can sometimes loan that employee to university for assistance and help. And then on our end, we could do the same. We also can bring our people to industry as well in order to teach industry what we know on the college campuses. So I believe this two-way partnership with industry and government can be made better if we took the opportunity to say, how can we partner better? One way that we're attempting to do this through the NGA as well is that we will get an NGA person within Harris State University to partner with us on loan to help us build a curriculum. And these are ways that we can make sure that industry and government are partnering together to improve this network and to also make sure that the colleges and universities continue to have the talent that we need without, the corporate in government, having all the talent because that's where the money is at. So we can make sure that we are sharing the load and also sharing some of the cost in that space. So innovating new ways of partnering together is how I see us being able to do this in a better way.
Yeah,
Ken, do you have a
Todd, can
follow-up
I
on
add
that?
on to that? Oh, go ahead, Ken. Yeah, sorry.
You have a follow-up on that, Ken? No? Kristen?
I just wanted to add on to that because I think Freddie is absolutely correct, and he talks about on loan, but we have great industry partners, and coming back to interface with our students. Most of our PhD programs that we have at the university, we have industry experts that come in from that particular sector, and they provide adjunct teaching or interfacing with our students to really illustrate the jobs and what's expected right then and there. And so I think you're absolutely right, and I think that's crucial for that sharing of knowledge that you talked about.
Thank you. We're going to take some questions. Oh, I'm sorry.
Right, I just wanted to just point out something when it comes to Freddie and Kristen's comments here. My colleagues here on the panel with me. If I think about our students want to see people who are having work experience, and not only that, but your employees, they are working and can benefit from seeing the thinking that our students bring. It's that exchange that happens there that has a lot of value. That's not always recognized. Innovation really can come from those exchanges. And I think it's not only between faculty and staff, but I think it's also our students. Our students can provide a lot of innovation, and we see that at Gallaudet all the time. Whenever we introduce someone from industry, maybe a leader comes to our classes or doing a project or problem solve with our students, the level of innovation and creativity that comes from that is just tremendous. So I would agree. I think there's some great points that have been raised here by my colleagues. I appreciate what's been said.
I wanted to add to that because I forgot about internship opportunities. Sorry, Todd. I wanted to talk about internship opportunities, and that's particularly important because it's not just about bringing the industry experts into our space, but making sure that our students are exposed to industry or corporations or workforce space early and often. And as we all know, I think here on this panel, that can many times lead to a job for that student. Sorry, Todd.
That's okay. I have one question to start off with from the audience. If you have other ones, please pass them up. Academia tends to value sharing publications, sharing their knowledge with the larger society. The intelligence community is opposite of that. The intelligence community gains information, knowledge, and insights to have a competitive advantage. So how can academic institutions and the intelligence community come to terms with that?
I can take that one on. So I think that both forms of collaboration are valuable. I think the key piece is clarity. Are we working in an open space where the expectation is that we publish whatever we come up with, regardless of how the research turns out, or are we in a classified space? And I think that's entirely appropriate, but at the same time, we just have to make sure that the expectations are absolutely clear at the outset.
One more thing on that. I also believe that we have to do a better job of aligning our business models when it comes to those type of opportunities, because you're right, publications are important for academia, and secrecy is important for the government, but who owns that property, once it is published, So if we did a better job of aligning our business models together, I think that could go a long way in this opportunity as well.
And I wanted to add something to that with regards to the NGA and having the Moonshot institution or a space such as the Moonshot Labs, that way you can really have that interface that's at T-Rex between what's going on in the NGA and the classified space and what's going on with education is crucial, and one of the reasons why we're so pleased to be in the T-Rex space with our geospatial collaborative.
And if I may, I just wanted to propose a different perspective to that question. It's interesting because one of our challenges for many of our deaf researchers and those who have PhDs, and this has been the case for some time now, is that we've been very open and willing to participate in, other kinds of research, whether it's classified or non-classified, and people have benefited from the perspective and expertise that we bring, the knowledge about sign language and gesturing, and everything that's related to access that we offer. But what's fascinating is that the revenues, the grants, and the indirect revenue that comes from those research projects never make it back to Gallaudet, nor to our deaf researchers, nor our deaf teams. So we're doubly marginalized, if you will. And as president, for me, I behave a little bit more like the intelligence communities by saying, hey, hold up everybody, I'm not sure we're so willing to share. We as a community have to realize and have realized our economic value in terms of what we have to contribute. And so the tension happens on multiple levels for us, and I absolutely love your answer about the clarity that's necessary. I don't want to be exploited any longer. It comes down to that, where we've been so generous in providing information and content, but in the end, the deaf community has not been able to benefit from the wealth created as a result of that knowledge shared. So there is something about the intelligence community, what they're trying to do to protect their knowledge. There is something that they're trying to protect, which is understandable. It's protection from competitors that are out there, but there are also some shared experiences that we can draw from. And I think that again goes back to values. Those shared values provide clarity as to what we're trying to achieve together, who our audiences are, who will gain from this knowledge, and what is the value that this country can gain from that knowledge, and what we're trying to create together. The last thing I have to say, you know, as university president, when I think about knowledge creation and generation, it makes me a little bit sad when I think about, you know, all the race for patents that are out there. We want to patent everything. We want to see the value, though, of opening up and sharing knowledge to our world. And in doing so, we're going to have to wrestle with some bigger questions that are posed. Of course, not here nor now, but at the same time, there's something that's a little unfortunate when it comes around that notion of knowledge, and how we want to support the strength of democracy that we have when we don't withhold knowledge but share that. Because when we withhold knowledge, it weakens our democracy. And I also wrestle with that macro level as well as the micro level and the details and clarity that's needed. It doesn't make our jobs any easier, nor my job as president any easier, to tackle these big questions.
Thank you very much. We have time for really one more question. We have a hard stop at 3:10 because there's other people speaking. So let me paraphrase this question. This is actually for Ken, but I'll open it up to Ken first and anybody else we have the time to do. You say you didn't know what NGA GEOINT was when you came to SLU. How would you advise we reach out to leadership folks at universities who simply don't know the background and get their attention for further development of GEOINT programs at accredited universities?
Have him call me. I'd be happy to talk to anyone, one of my colleagues. I mean, I'll tell a little bit more about our experience. Leadership from the university, myself and President Fred Costello decided that this is something that we really wanted to emphasize and prioritize. And so we invited our faculty to essentially come up with their vision of what this could be, and we intentionally did it as a university-wide research, training, and innovation institute. It reports up through me and the provost, and so it sits at the center of the university and thus has the ability to reach across the breadth of, you know, everything from the law school, the business school, medical school, so on and so forth. I think that combination of having faculty leadership and it's their vision and it's their passion, together with top-level support from the leadership of the university is what's essential there. But working with the NGA, if Bill Caniano is still here, there he is. It's not necessarily for the faint of heart, and so it requires, you know, a lot of patience on both sides and deep collaboration. So, but my offer is genuine. I'd be happy to talk to either provost presidents, vice presidents for research, whatever the appropriate thing is, and tell them about our experience. So, absolutely worth it. We've been thrilled with our partnerships. So many good things have happened as a result of it, but it's not a small undertaking, I guess I would say.
Freddie, I want to give you 30 seconds for the last word here.
So I also, like Ken say, call us, because we have to be more intentional about creating these type of opportunities to talk with one another. We're in the business of building talent for industry, for government, and government and industry is in the building of enhancing that talent as well. But we can't do that without having these conversations together about what it is that we need to be doing in academia to prepare our students to come into your companies, to come into government. So we just need to be in conversation more with each other, more intentionality around this, and more opportunities for us to have natural discussions about collaborating and partnering with one another.
Thank you very much. I really am remiss that we're going to have to stop. We're sort of at the end. We have a hard stop. We have other people. I do want to say this. I wish we had more time to do this. I wish it was on the big stage with a larger audience. I want to thank all the panelists. This is, without a doubt, the best panel in all my years I had with the USGIF Symposium. I will say this. I'm not sure if Camellia planned it this way. I'm hearing impaired. And we were on a panel a couple years ago, and I'm walking out there and said, Camellia, there's a bad echo in there. I won't be able to hear what anybody's saying. I got out there and I just saw lips moving. So she saved me because she stepped in and saved. But understanding hearing impairment, particularly from folks in the military, I think we all have it. I retired from the military, is very, very important. Again, thank you very much. This has been a super experience for me, and I hope for everybody else. Thank you.
Thank you, Ted.